So today I came out to the orchard hoping to cut out any fire blight I might find on my apples and pears. And I actually noticed another problem I've got. I just kind of seem to have about every problem. And this one, however, is self-inflicted. So last year I did a lot of pruning on these trees. It was my first good year to have a lot of time and really cut out the branches I don't want, trim down to the scaffold branches I did want. And particularly my Gravenstein apple tree, it was just overgrown, and I really wanted to pull it down completely in 1 year, just down to exactly the size I want. And some of these branches I easily took off 5 or 10 feet from them. And so what happened is that these leaves were all concentrated on the tips of these branches, so all of the sun protection was actually on those ends. So when I did that, I reduced how much energy that this tree could pull in, and since I did dormant pruning, then the tree was already poised to make as much fruit as it wanted to. I kind of lucked out on that, I guess, in a way, that the rough freeze that we had killed off a lot of that fruit load. So I want to take a look at some of the sunscald that I got on this Gravenstein particularly. A lot of these other trees have not been affected by this. This is just one that I went too far on my pruning. So I wanted to, give you guys an accurate show of what happens when you do that. So hopefully you can learn from my mistake and not make the same mistake. So let's take a look at some of these branches. So here's the Gravenstein. I've shown you guys the bottom of it looks a little sad, and I actually noticed with a small Gravenstein that I grafted that it did the same thing but on a small scale, where it went ahead and had this kind of hunk of bark. Yeah, it's strange, but I've been getting some damage here, so I was trying to protect against some of that. I'm not sure how long this tree is going to last when it looks like this. That's part of what I want to do here today, is prevent any further sun damage. The plan is to paint this. I'm going to use a latex paint, about 50% latex paint with 50% water, and coat a lot of these areas because you can't see it as much on this side. Some of this bark's coming off because new bark's coming in, and that's fine. But when you come around the side here, you can see this splitting, and then over here we've got more splitting, and even over here even more up here. Down here on the bottom we've got splitting, and it just kind of flakes off like this. And obviously that's not good for the tree. It's gonna create wounds, then borers and other insects can get in there, and we'll end up having even more damage from that. So, that's what happened here, at least as far as I can tell. I don't think it's any sort of other problem, but I can even feel a ridge here where on this side it's dry and flaky, and on this side it seems to be fine. So if we can get that protected and stop that damage from going any further by getting this painted, that's what the plan is here today. So if you're having this problem, that can definitely be part of the issue. You can see I do have a decent canopy, but there are a few spots like this that are open, and if I'd been kind of thinking it through a little bit more, I might have stopped a little bit sooner to at least make sure my canopy was decent, even if it was going to be shorter. So where I cut some of these, I still like where I cut them because I'm trying to hold this size down. I tried to pull them in all about the same amount, but I didn't even really have any sort of material to come out here and harvest for future grafting for younger trees this year, because the tree just was just suffering from not having that extra energy source of all those other leaves. So the most I really got were some of these new growth branches like this, where this is a pretty good one. This is graftable material if I was looking for that. But mostly I've just got spurs and spur leaves that are going to be coming out here, and not a lot of new growth. So it is a mature sized tree, so I wouldn't expect it to put out a ton of growth, but because I did so much pruning, I expected more than what we got. So if you guys are having some of that look to your bark as well, that's something you're going to want to check for, is how good is the canopy on covering that tree. And you'll want to get some paint on there. There's organic solutions as well that you can do. I had different friends drop by extra paint that they had, and interior latex paint's what you want to go for, and you want something that'll at least reflect most of the light. A lighter colored paint will do you the best. This is my Liberty tree. I probably did the least amount of pruning on this. It's got a lot going on, and it can handle a heavy crop load. But when I get in here and I look around, even though I thinned out a decent amount of things, there's still a good amount of canopy, and I don't see any sort of sunscald damage in here. This one's still really healthy. So even though we've got some of these larger wounds like this that are healing over, they're not even blackened where they are. So overall, just doing way better because I took it easy on it. And then this Mac Free that I've talked about other times too, you can tell I've taken out some of these somewhat larger branches in there, but nothing too large. I don't have any of that sunscald in here. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're trying to thin your fruit trees this year. Make sure you don't go too far. Make sure you leave plenty of a canopy to keep that tree protected the natural way. And if you're wanting to push further, then make sure that you accommodate the tree by protecting it with some sort of dressing. So I'll be even coming into this tree, and I'll probably see how much paint I can do and look for the ones that I think will be most susceptible to this damage out here and get those taken care of. So hopefully you guys found this helpful, and that'll help you guys out with your pruning this year.